all of our technology troubles are going to be a thing of the past, hopefully. So if you guys are connected with Annie, please put 1 in the chat box. And if you have been connected with me, but you don't know Annie, please put 2. And then if you're connected to both of us, hit 3. Aw.
Sweet.
Yeah, there's so many people that have not met you. So I'm so excited. For those of you that know Annie, she is absolutely amazing. We met online middle of last year. Has it been longer than that? Something like that.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah. I don't even remember how we met. I think maybe we commented on something on LinkedIn, and then we got connected, and yeah, it's been amazing ever since. So welcome.
I think at some point one of us just decided we should be friends, and then it just happened.
I love it. So for those of you who don't know Annie runs the Whole Assistant, and her stuff is, I think we actually connected because I saw something about productivity and I was like, oh, I want to geek out with her about productivity tips. So please share with everyone who doesn't know you, and those of us that do, a little bit about you and kind of what you're doing right now, all that fun stuff.
Sure. So my name is Annie. As Melissa said, I live in Denver, Colorado. I'm currently in my bedroom because it is the only quiet place in my house. I live here with my husband, my stepson, my 3-month-old, and my father-in-law. So I'm in a house full of boys. My 3-month-old is too. I'm a house full of boys. And this is the one quiet place that I can come and kind of work or meet with you all. So I'm really excited to be here today with you. I started the Whole Assistant in 2018 because I was noticing, well, I actually tried to find a community online to connect with. I've since found many, but at the time I was having a hard time finding community. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to start my own. And I do have a few things to say about what we do as EAs. So I started a blog, I started a website, and I run a Facebook group, Whole Assistant Heroes. So I've been doing that since 2018, June of 2018. And I'm loving every minute of it. I'm loving all the people I'm meeting, like you, Melissa. It's been great to get to know you and other folks as well. And I'm really excited to get to know all of the people who are attending too today. So I'm really passionate about making sure that we are as productive as humanly possible. And I'm really passionate about viewing our own productivity process as a means of self-care. So often productivity is viewed as just a means by which we get things done. But I feel like if we can have a system in place to manage all the things, it actually makes our life so much easier. And in that regard, it is a form of self-care. And so, yeah, I'm really passionate about it for those reasons more than anything else, because I want us all to be well. I want us all to be healthy. I want us all to maintain our sanity, especially as the world is what it is currently. So those are my passions and what I'm excited about. I've also created a course, and I'll launch it again in sometime this summer, about productivity and about how to create those processes as well. So that's a little bit about me, and yeah.
So how are you? So for those of you that are online and you are stuck in your house, wherever you are, where you guys hit like 0 if you're stuck in your house. I currently am in my 2-bedroom apartment with me, my husband, my son, and my dog. So if you hear her screaming at somebody from the outdoor, it's because she's like, there's humans out there. So, when Annie and I had originally decided to do the session, we wanted to chat about something that was probably a little different. And then all this, the world happened. And when a lot of you registered, kind of pulling all of the questions in, some of them were about systems, but some of them were about just life and how do we manage everything with the current crisis that's going on. So as usual, in my webinars, we want this to be super conversational, and we want to answer the questions that you guys have. So please make sure that you are using the Q&A at the bottom. If you hover at the bottom of the screen, you can get to the Q&A or to the chat box. So we'd love to hear questions that you guys have. We want to make sure that we're answering your questions. So what I thought, one of the things that I thought was really interesting is, as you and I were chatting, we both talk a lot about systems and process. and all of that good stuff. And so you really said something that kind of piqued my interest, which I think this is such a unique time for us to do this. And we were kind of talking about how do you take this, it's not downtime, but it's a different level of, I guess, the way that we're all working from home. We have, our life is a little bit different. And so having a reflective look on your processes and how you're currently managing things. So can you talk a little bit about that when we were kind of going back and forth about using this time wisely?
Yes. So I have been receiving a lot of questions in my community, and then also the questions that we got for our discussion today around how do we, most of us or some of us, we're able to get through our daily tasks in about an hour to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And so how do we manage our time effectively and still bring value to our executive and still bring value to our organization and still make the most use of our time as executive assistants during this kind of like, I don't want to say slower time, but this different time.
Yeah.
And and for some of us, it will be slower because we aren't being interrupted by coworkers constantly coming into the office asking for stuff, and we aren't, we aren't having to worry about some of the things we have to worry about when we're at the office, but we are having to worry about other things. And so the question I got this last week was like, how do I still maintain my job, or how do I still add value to my exec and organization? And one of the things I would like for us all to do, especially during this time when we're not in our routine, is view this time as a gift, and to really take a step back from our roles and get a bird's eye view of everything that's on our plate. And the best way to do this, guys, is to actually get everything that's on our plate out of our heads. So
Yeah.
do a thought download, write everything down that you think you do on a consistent basis. If you're tracking your tasks in any way, if I know, like my Trello webinar, I teach people how to archive their lists so they can pull those lists up so they can see what they've done in a week. So really, but just brain dump all that you have on your plate, and then group similar tasks together, and then just write out your process for each. And then just analyze it and ask yourself if there are efficiencies that you could put into place moving forward that perhaps you hadn't thought about before. I know for myself, I'm constantly doing this. I think probably because I'm more process junkie than anything else. Um, because processes create efficiencies. When your brain does something over and over and over again, it gets really good at doing that over and over and
Yeah.
over again in that specific way. So that would be one like suggestion for how you can spend your time to still add value to your exec and organization. Um,
No,
it's hard. This time
yeah,
is
I
hard.
think you've got probably, we have two different groups, right? We have people that are saying like, hey, I don't know, I've never worked remotely before. A lot of the stuff that I've done has been in the office, very task oriented. How do I bring value to my team? And then you have the other flip side, that where people are just overwhelmed and overloaded with the amount of work with the switch. And how do you do that? So I would love to hear, so comment below if you guys want, we're going to focus on probably one or the other. So let's start with those, just like you said, that are, kind of all those very task oriented. So maybe raise your hand if you're someone who's drowning in work. Raise your hand, because I know that there are so many of us that are doing that. So to me, I think what's really critical when you are drowning in work is taking that step back and saying, okay, like what part is it everybody, well, because at this point, especially if you're in the C-suite, things are happening very quickly. Is it that you're trying to get communications out to your team quicker? Are you just overloaded with tasks in every, email and text and IM and all the other different places? So I think it really does take a lot, step back and say, okay, this is where all the stuff is coming in. And then these are the priorities. And then figure out, okay, are there similar things that I can batch together? I think the other thing, and you and I were talking about this too, is how do you then begin to think about how you work? And are you communicating that out to your team on how you're working and what is, because all of us are different. You've got a baby at home, which is going to be a different demand than someone who's like me, and I don't have those kinds of demands. So how are you communicating with your team about expectations right now?
So I think for me, just reiterating, I've been very honest with my exec. I pulled my son from daycare
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, and it was really hard for me to like I think a lot of times like I just want to come off so professional that it was hard for me to say, hey, just so you know, I'm working at home now with a baby.
Yeah.
um, and so just communicating that. And then also like my 9 to 5 no longer looks like a 9 to 5 work
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So my husband works from home. So I communicated that. My exec knows that as well. My team knows that as well. And our CFO, who manages more like the administrative functions of our team in our office, knows that as well. So as hard as it is to be painfully honest, I've just had to be painfully honest with them and be like, hey guys, this is the reality of the situation. I've got a baby at home. I've got a husband who's on calls constantly. I'm getting to things as I can, but I still have to feed my baby. I still have to make sure he's not screaming his head off. Um, I still have to make sure things are moving smoothly in our home and in our house as well. So, and I didn't mention this when we talked earlier, Melissa, but I've been waking up really early to feed Sammy, my son, around 3:30 or 4 in the morning. And then sometimes I'll go back to bed, but then sometimes I'll get up and have like an
Yeah.
hour or two to myself to get things done
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
before. So I think it just takes being flexible, being really honest with your team about what is going on for you at home so that they know without oversharing. I think we can advocate for ourselves without having to overshare necessarily.
Yeah.
Um, and so I tell them that once and then I don't bring it up again.
I think this is something that I'm actually super passionate about because I am someone who would be in the high risk category. And so for me, but I also feel like it's kind of me and my life I generally share out with people for like learning purposes. But I also know when if I'm in a corporate role, I don't actually want the whole world to know that when I'm in a role. So for me, this has been something that I've had a lot of people reach out to me because they know that I've had those issues and say like, how have you dealt with this? And I think Annie and I were chatting about it and she said something that was really impactful. She was like, make sure that you're advocating for yourself, but that people are not exposing themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that there is that pressure right now that if for whatever reason you're in that high risk category, you shouldn't have to tell the world as to why you need to, keep yourself safe. So I love that you said that because that's really important because, not everyone on the outside looks like they could be sick or that, they have some issue that's causing that. So I love that you're encouraging people to do that. Okay, so we had so many questions, which was amazing. Thank you guys all. So I'm going to do a rapid fire. And if I say a question that is kind of you or you're feeling it, please type a 1 in the chat box. Okay. So question number 1 is, I really want to make sure that I am set up to support virtually during these times and going forward with email. Is there another area that I could help with? I'll let you go first.
Oh, you want me to answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So are there other areas that you can help with? I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Can you please repeat the question?
Sure, absolutely. So it says, I really want to make sure that I am set up to support virtually during these times and going forward. And email. Sorry, guys. And with email management, is there another area that I would like to help with? So I think what they're trying to say is I'd like to help with email management virtually. I think that's the question.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on doing that?
So I think there are other ways that we can ask questions to our executive other than outright, right? So
Yeah,
I think we can add value, especially with things like email and daily tasks. If you feel like you aren't getting the answer you need in order to add value to your executive, you may need to take a different approach. So a good approach to take would be to not actually ask him outright, but to say, hey, what's top of mind for you? And then to troubleshoot from there. Melissa actually brought this up during just her and I chatting. And so that's a great way to get at what's really on his mind in order to be able to then help triage the situation and in order to be able to help assist him better. I think another thing too that we can do is that we can actually see we can actually take a step back and not rely so much on our executive to point out holes.
Yeah.
If you see a hole and preemptively fill it, that's the ultimate right there. I love when my executive comes to me and I've already started on a solution for that issue that I knew he was going to bring up. So just
Right.
ask yourself, what is going to be, what is my executive going to ask for next? Or how can I add value here? Or is there a problem that my company is dealing with for which I have a solution, or that I can start a conversation around? So I know for me, I had a one-on-one with our CFO today, and he was talking about, he's like, man, I just wish that we could come together as a team more, and that we can focus more on teamwork during this time, because we're all isolated now. We don't see each other or even anybody else really, because we're in our homes. So I said, well, what about like, what about if we do like a pedometer challenge, or like a fitness challenge, or like, so I
Yeah.
started brainstorming those kind of things with him too, before it's even brought up to my exec, so it's just really, really what I would love to see people doing more of is actually presenting a problem that they see in the broader organization, and
Right.
presenting a solution to that problem, or presenting a few ideas on how to eliminate the problem, or how to better the problem.
I agree.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, no, so that's, I mean, that's what I would say.
I think
Yeah.
for me, to give a little bit more context about what I was saying earlier, when you ask someone else what's top of mind for them is a different, it gets them thinking in a different way versus if you just say, what can I help you with? Because when people are in crisis mode, they don't know. They're like, oh my God, the world is fix the world. But when you say what is top of mind, and just kind of let them list things out, then you can start to identify those areas where you can help drive in a different way. The other thing that I would say is don't limit those one-on-ones. I think those are more important now than ever. So the one-on-ones outside of that you're having outside of your executive. So all of his or her direct reports, that level, like keep having those conversations with business partners and who else is in that direct line, so that you can understand what they need. Because sometimes I don't know, for those of you that are kind of new to using these kinds of collaborative tools, it may be fine now, and you kind of are getting your head above water. But if you think about what things might look like in a month or in a month and a half, or things will become very convoluted. And so having, are there processes set in place about where people can find information? It's very different when you're in the office and you can walk by somebody and ask a question versus now where everybody is remotely and you don't have those options. So I'd say keep having those one-on-ones, get FaceTime with people. So, and I think it's really important that you get used to seeing your face on a camera, because intonation is different. I can hear a joke on your face if I see it versus just taking tones in email. So I think the more FaceTime that you can do is really important, so that you can keep those relationships going. Okay, so we had a couple questions online, so we're going to ask those before we get to the ones that were. So Samantha, just we kind of touched base on that. So if that didn't answer your question, please let us know, and we'll deep dive into that a little bit more. So the second question is, this is my first time working from home, and I'm finding it challenging to instill discipline, like going to be on time, waking up with my normal time for work. Any suggestions?
Yes, I think this is a challenge for a lot of us, right? Because when your bed is there and your television is there,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's really hard to actually take initiative and to get things done, especially when you may only have an hour or two of work when it's uninterrupted, right? So my biggest suggestion would be to create routines. There again, systematize again. So, you may not have to wake up as early because you don't have to go into the office, but you can still get up at around 7, have breakfast, work out, whatever your routine is. Just make sure that you make it a habit, because once it's habitualized, it's so much easier, because your brain automatically defaults to the habit. And because we're going to be in this state, it looks like for another month and a half, I would definitely start putting systems in place now. And I make it a super easy way to do that is to set yourself up for success the night before. So what does this look like? To me, this looks like looking over my task list for the next day, making sure that I've got my top priorities on that list. It also looks like setting out my workout clothes so that it makes it easier for me to work out. It looks like setting my alarm,
Yeah.
so that I am getting up on time. And hey, looky there, my workout clothes are all ready to go. I don't even have to dig them out of the closet. And then it makes it so much easier to just to follow that routine if you set yourself up for success in those ways.
Yeah.
That would be
I
my
think
advice.
I am a social butterfly, so I can highly relate to how challenging being stuck in the house can be. So for me, we have, I don't know, 730 square feet that we can move around in our house. And so what I found for me is because I am in such a small space that I really have nowhere to go. It's like my living room or my bedroom. That's like the options. So for me, I actually have a dedicated, as you can see, this is my workspace that also doubles as my living room on the other side. But for me, it's getting up and moving around and participating wherever I may be. So if I am, doing a virtual co-working session, or if I have scheduled check-ins with someone, that will help to encourage me. Because if you're like me and you miss people, you just want to like curl under the bed and be like, oh, I'll come back out when I can see people again. So it really is challenging. So I think it's really important to kind of go through and schedule what you're going to do. If you are a fan of time blocking, which I absolutely am, our work life and our home life right now is just all one big mess. And so figuring out when you're going to do what and break it up. There's no reason, like no one would expect you to sit at a desk for 8 hours without moving. So, if you need to get up and go do something that's personal, do that. I think that that's a fair expectation, is that you don't just kind of sit and don't move from your desk. You're going to have to live your life. And if you're like me, you need to change it up a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about, so this question is, what is your most treasured secret weapon in the office that helps you pull rabbits out of a hat?
Oh, Trello.
I knew you were going to say that. No, I'm kidding.
Trello is my task tracking system that I've used, and I actually teach a free webinar on it. And I love Trello because I can actually drag and drop my tasks to prioritize and reprioritize as they come in. I can actually integrate it with my email, with Outlook, or with Gmail. You can actually integrate Trello in a variety of different ways there as well, so that I can actually send something to my to-do list directly from my email. There's just it's the only way that things do not fall through the cracks for me. And then what I do, Melissa, you're talking about time blocking. If I feel like my day is going, it will be at a place to where I can block out chunks of time to actually focus on things, I will set the time parameters in my Trello card. So I'll be like, oh, from 9 to 9:30, I'm going to do a thought download. And from 9:30 to 10, I'm going to triage my email. And then I get the heck out of my email.
Yeah.
My email, because otherwise email will rule your day. It'll rule.
Yeah.
You'll just stuck in email land all day. And then I work for a couple hours on another project, and then I check back in with email, and then I close it out again, so just really Trello is the one thing that makes life so much easier for me and helps me track and make sure that I am being productive on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I mean, gosh, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say OneNote probably. But right now, while everybody's kind of dealing with everything and figuring out whatever that collaborative space is, that's the key. Like wherever your team is going to, whether it's Trello, whether it is, in the Microsoft environment or whatever, being in that space where people are talking and having questions, like answering all of that kind of who knows what, I think is the key right now. If this is new, if you're completely new to collaborative space, this is a really hard time for you. So I feel for you. But if it's OneNote, if you've never done anything collaborative, I would start with OneNote. If you're a pro at it, like building out your teams, there's so much you can pull Trello into OneNote. If you are working on a project, do Planner. I mean, I think there's so many collaborative tools out there. I had somebody email me earlier this week and they said, that in the middle of this kind of crisis, everybody was trying to pull those rabbits out of their hat. And all of these admins they're in the Microsoft environment, but everybody started saying different things like, let's use Trello, let's use, To-Do, let's use this and that. And I always advocate stay within whatever ecosystem you're in. Don't jump out of it. Like if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, make your life easy. And the rabbit in your hat can be to stay in the ecosystem. If you are in G Suite, then go use Trello and all those other apps, but try to stay in the ecosystem that you're in. It's going to change your world versus kind of trying to piecemeal things. So that would be my rabbit trick is to stay in the ecosystem that you're already in.
Yep.
Okay, let's ask another question. So this one says, I feel cut off from my executive. He may reject my call, not accept a meeting invite from me, or send a brief text response that doesn't provide enough information. I know he's busy, but I'm trying to add value the best that I can. That's a really, really important question. I think there are a lot of us that are kind of dealing with that.
So just remember that you are your executive's assistant and he can choose to use you when and how he wants. And as hard as it is, I feel like there again, we can ask questions in a different way. We can ask what's top of mind for him. We can point out holes or notice something and then just ping him on it. But I know for me, when my executive doesn't get back to me right away with something that I feel is important, but he doesn't, I'm like, okay, well, I'm your assistant. So if this is not a priority for you right now, then I'm not going to worry about it as much. And just realize that everybody is dealing with this crisis a little bit differently. And our world is, I know, like I'm in the healthcare space, in the VC healthcare space. I work for a venture capital firm and some of our portfolio companies are very busy trying to find solutions to this problem. And my executive is kind of preoccupied with some of those things right now. And yet I know I need tax documents from him, or I know I need whatever from him to move forward. All I can do is keep putting it in front of him. I mean, like, and as a reminder, because I send, we communicate via email. He's in Florida currently. I'm in Colorado. So I'll send a weekly email reminder to him, and then I'll touch base once throughout the week. You don't want to hound him too much about those things, but you also want to keep things in front of him. At the end of the day, he's responsible for managing his life and his world and his role. And I will say too that, like, if you aren't getting what you need, there are certain ways to get what you need from your executive. Maybe just ask him outright, hey, so I've been bringing this up. Is this still a priority? Or would you prefer to focus here? Or I'm focusing on this project here, but would you rather I noticed you're spending a lot of time doing A, B, and C. Would you rather I focus on these things instead? Just asking him the questions in those ways will open up room for more discussion, and will actually bring to his mind, oh, right, that this is more a priority for me. You're right. Okay, so let me shift a little bit here and get you what you need so that you can better do your job. So
I'm wondering a little bit if the relationship with that executive maybe wasn't the best to begin with, because I think we all have different experiences with our executives, and sometimes we have like really amazing partnerships and other times we have struggles. And so I'm going to take the flip side of that. So if you have a struggle, if you're struggling with your relationship with your executive in person, and then throwing this on top of it, I can only imagine the challenges that it's bringing. So I guess I would think about how they're communicating. If they're not consistently having one-on-ones with you when you're in the office, and now you're remote and you're asking and they're declining, I think that could probably be a hit. I would feel that emotionally. So I think that I would try to reach out, and in whatever way that is, whether it's like a shared tool like OneNote, if you're going to keep your priorities on OneNote, if it's text or whatever, and just kind of ask those questions in a little bit more of a, kind of like, it's hard to be vulnerable when somebody is not giving you the attention that you need. So I get that. But maybe just kind of reaching out to them and kind of asking them, hey, like Annie said, is this something that you want to be focusing on right now? And, because if they're struggling with that communication piece, obviously that's going to impact your role, but don't internalize it would also be my suggestion, is that the whole world is kind of upside down right now. So don't internalize if they are responding in a negative way. And you are bringing value, but it may not be in the way that you're hoping to right now. And I think that's just going to have to be the reality for some of us, because things are just, yeah, it's hard for everybody.
I would also
Okay.
say too that like you kind of have to let people be who they're going to be. You know, like we're proactive, we're assistants, we're trying to get things done, we're movers, we're shakers, and then there are then there are our executives. So you know, regardless of whether or not your relationship has always been kind of rocky, or it's just the communication with not being in the office is the issue, whatever the issue is, at some point you just have to go, okay, so I'm going to support you the best way I know how. And beyond that, like I can't control you. You have to let the humans be the humans and you be
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and that's the hardest part, I know, for me, especially because like I really want to make sure that everything is done and my heart is of service and my heart is to like please people and to make sure everybody's taken care of. But you know, girl, at the end of the day, it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah. I think
um,
we're all feeling that.
yeah.
Okay, so another question that we got is, I work with Microsoft, so hey, kudos. What would you recommend me to manage my executive tasks? Is it to do or planner? I would honestly say I would use OneNote, honestly. And I have it, if you're interested, if you ping me, I've got a forum that I use that I can show you how to use it on there. The reason why I would say you can use, so just for those of you that don't know, the to do and tasks, they're actually the same thing. So depending on if you're trying to implement a new technology policy while you guys are remote, if they're not used to using tasks and they're not going to look at it, I would not use that, because if they're not there, trying to convince them to use it's going to be challenging. Planner, you could, although again, it's the same thing. If it's a new technology adoption, I would avoid it. The reason I suggest OneNote is because it's completely collaborative. It's just literally go in and just start typing. And it's just very simple. So and you're in the middle of all of this that's happening and you're trying to also get new technology adoption, I would not suggest going and doing something totally outside the norm where they have to learn a new process. Because even when you're using tasks the right way, it is a new muscle memory. So if you're interested, let me know and I'm happy to send it out to me. Okay, so let's do another question. So my struggle has been with not only with my team interruptions when my execs needs changes. Major struggle is finding time to do expenses for 3 people with large credit card statements. I find I really need uninterrupted time for handling expenses. Any suggestions when to find this time? I do, but I'll let Annie go first.
So I know Melissa already touched on it, but as much as you can, time block your day. The thing is, now I'm not sure what your life looks like. Like, are you at home with a bunch of kids and a husband who also works, who needs attention? Or are you, like, are you working from the office? Are you at home? You know, like, I need more details in order to give you specifics, but I will say things that help me find time to focus is just planning it out. And then also, guys, I think we often shoot ourselves in the foot when it comes to focus time with our technology. And by that I mean our phones are constantly dinging, going off. You know, we've got Facebook pulled up and tabulated on our computer screen. Our email inbox is open. So as much as you can, close out all that stuff. Set your phone to silent, set it aside, put it away. And really, really commit the time to focus. And then I'd also set time parameters. So what does setting time parameters looks like? I've got a focus timer on my phone. It's the only app that has access to ding me. And it is right here. Focus Keeper is the name of it. And I can set the time to literally anything, right?
Yeah.
And I love this because this is my time. I'm going to spend 45 minutes focusing on this, and then I'm going to take a break. And what taking a break does is it resets your brain, because our brains fatigue after a little while when we're focused on something. And then have you ever stared blankly at your screen? I think we've all been there before, right? Where we've been working on a project and then all of a sudden we're like, ooh.
Yeah.
So this is a great way to not do that. So you can set your timer for whatever you think you can focus for, 45 minutes, then take a 5 or 10 minute break away from your computer, then come back to it. So those are a few tips for focusing that I would recommend us all implement as much as we possibly can. I know for somebody like me who's got an infant at home, it may not be possible to always focus
Yeah.
at all. So there again, that 3 o'clock in the morning feeding, after that, I'd be up, I'd be doing my expense reports. Well, I had the time to focus. And then I'd take a nap or a break later on in the day to kind of make up for that, given my current circumstances. So
Yeah, I would say too that for me, I'm going to hit on the piece where you said that people are constantly interrupting you. I think that that's a really fine balance right now, is that because all of us are remote, but you still have boundaries and guidelines and expectations just like anybody else. And I can tell you, I have made huge mistakes by allowing people to interrupt me. And I learned a long time ago that I needed to protect that time when I'm doing something important like expense reports or global travel, which nobody's doing right now, but you know what I mean? Things that really need more brain power. And so setting the expectation that says, like, if you're using Teams or whatever tool that you're using, and you go on do not disturb, go on do not disturb so that you're actually taking that time. And most of the tools will have ways that you can allow certain people to access you no matter what. But reject the interruptions. And I know that's hard for a lot of us, but there are things that really will impact the business if we screw them up. And so we need to kind of focus in when we need to do that. And I think giving yourself the permission to do that is important. Allowing yourself to set your own boundaries to say, I need to focus in on that. And I'm not going to be responding to those messages until I'm completed with this task or within a time frame or whatever. So I would just encourage you to be okay with setting your own boundaries even now, and figure out what that looks like and then communicate that out with your team. Okay, so let's see. One of the questions is, how can you stay productive when your exec doesn't always have a task for you? So I know we've touched on this quite a bit, but I'd love to kind of go and say, for what are some ideas that we can drum up for people? I know I have like a whole list. And I know you have a list too of things that people can do right now that are, if you're feeling stuck, because you're used to doing different type tasks when you're in the office.
So we already touched on this about taking a bird's eye view of all your tasks and really auditing your systems. And I know this sounds silly because I think most of us believe in our systems, but it's incredible. I do this several times a year and I'm always surprised at the efficiencies I can create. So that's one. Second of all, I would say now's the time to take any like learning opportunities that you want to take. So for me last year, I noticed that my financial literacy wasn't what it needed to be to support my executive effectively. So I took a finance class and now I know how to read a P&L and L and a balance sheet and I know what
Yeah.
those numbers mean and represent. So really take a step back in terms of the holes in your skill set too, and then be proactive as to ways to fill them. And there are lots of free courses out there too. I know Coursera, or there are lots of different websites for courses that you can take that will help up your game. Another thing that I encourage executive assistants to do is to take a look at their executive's brand and ask how they can enhance it.
Yeah.
And so I know for me, a while back, my executive he just kept pushing meetings out and pushing meetings out and pushing meetings out. And then the third time I'm rescheduling a meeting, I'm like, okay, I need to be managing this differently because I don't think my executive actually wants this meeting.
Yeah.
And so I'd circle back when after 2 reschedules and be like, okay, are you sure you want to continue to push this person out? It's sending this message. I would be happy to give my yes, no, yes method, which is really great in case you ever have to reject a meeting. You don't want to ghost people. I know that a lot of people do that. You don't want to ghost people. Here's how I suggest handling that. You say, oh, thank you so much for reaching out. So-and-so feels so honored that you would consider him to meet with. Unfortunately, we've got our objectives for this year and this doesn't quite fit with those objectives. Best of luck to you. Please let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
Yes, and then no, very clear no, not maybe reach out back out in a month or two, and then very kind, still please follow up with me, yes at the end, sandwich. So those are a few ways in which like that's how I upped my boss's image to his
Yeah.
executive too. So just be mindful of those things, you know. I think those things are really a value add.
Yeah, I would say if you're looking for things to do that to help drive the business right now, specifically, I would say one, I ask this question a lot. So for those of you that are in Microsoft or that you're in G Suite, most of us feel that we're an expert in the tool that we're in. But the question that I always like to present is, are you really? And I don't mean to say that in a mean way, but I always ask everyone this question. If you're in Outlook, can you name the 5 ways that you automate your inbox? If you can't rattle those off to me, like off the top of your head, like that's an opportunity for you to take this time right now to like gain that knowledge so that you can build really strong processes for not just you and your team when you get back into the office. So I think that you know, there's ways for you to deep dive into the tools that you're kind of using and you know them and you think that you know them, but like how well do you really know the tools that you're using? The other thing that I think about is intentional meeting culture. That's a really big thing that all EAs impact. So if you do a better job about, you know, kind of aligning what meetings look like and how, that is something that's really impactful. Then you can also think about something simple like, do you have a system on where you save files? A lot of people will just save them on their desktop, but that also says that you don't have the right system in place. So that if, you know, whatever, your computer crashes and you know exactly where to go for all of these things. Have you organized all of the files on your computer? Do you have a naming convention? So there's all of these things that we don't do because we're so busy in, you know, our daily life trying to keep up, that if you do have free time. So if you guys are interested, we can also send you a list out of sort of all those like little checks that you can check up on yourself and say, oh, okay, I probably could do some things here. Okay, so we are at 15 minutes. So if you guys have any questions, I'm going to actually launch this poll. So if you guys get to take a second, can you go out there and respond to this poll? Because we'd love to kind of touch base on this a little bit. Okay, so let's ask this question. Let's go to page 2. Okay, so this one says, how do I set up a shared to-do list with my hubby and get his buy-in so that we can both stay on top of life? I say that it depends on what tools that you're using. What do you say? Do you have a shared thing with your husband that you use?
No, I have tried to convert him to Trello many a time, but like my executive, he just prefers to send emails.
Yeah.
And so it's hard when you have another person because you can't control them, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
as much as we try to like make things streamlined for yourself and your executive or yourself and your husband, it doesn't always work the way that we think it will work in our brains. That's just the reality of life. So my suggestion to you would be to start implementing a system for yourself and then remind your husband of the tasks that he has committed to doing. So first of all, you need to get buy-in from him on the tasks itself, right? Like you need to get buy-in on him cleaning out the gutters or vacuuming the floors or whatever. And you need to come to some sort of agreement. How you track those things is secondary to that.
Yeah.
And so you can always track those things and you can bring him into the fold. And you be like, oh, I see on, March 16th that you vacuumed the floor. So now it's my turn on March, whatever, and so you can track them that way, or, pick up the kids from soccer or whatever the situation may be. I think first things first is you got to get the buy-in for the actual task.
Yeah. I would say I have successfully got my husband on OneNote because I just said that's what we need to do. No, he's been really great. And my husband is very untechy. So, but for me, because we work together at the same business, I actually just translated the OneNote that I'll send to whoever is interested in it, that I used with my executive, and I modified it a little bit and used it for us because I think it was just a way for us to kind of figure out, hey, what's top of mind just for both of us. It was a place where we both could go and like list our priorities. And the other thing I would say is if you're on an iPhone and you do shared reminders, there's all sorts of ways that I think that since we're all kind of stuck together. Well, they can't go out the house anyway. Like, I don't know about y'all, but here in Texas, we just got into like the stay in shelter. So yeah, you just have to have the conversation yelling from the bedroom. since we're all stuck here anyway, you can't really have that conversation. Okay, so I think it's really important. There's a lot of questions that we're getting about like feeling that sense of isolation. So, we're doing things like this every week. I've got sessions where I'm doing virtual co-working sessions where we just kind of all get on, share our video and kind of like hang out and chat for a while. If you're a social butterfly, I know how challenging that is. And Annie's got stuff that's going on. So, I mean, we all get what that isolation looks like. So talk to us a little bit about, you've got a brand new book club that you're launching so that you can help people not feel isolated. So talk to us a little bit about that and where they find it and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so over at my Facebook group, Whole Assistant Heroes, which is facebook.com/group/Whole Assistant, I am hosting a pop-up book club. You know how they have all the pop-up bars and pop-up stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna do a pop-up book club. It's gonna be so much fun. And I came up with the idea on my own, so I'm super proud of that. So basically this week we're reading Marie Forleo's Everything is Figure Outable. And then we're going to discuss the book on Monday via Zoom. And I post the Zoom link all over my group page, including in the announcement at the top of the feed. So you can find that information there. If you're a member, if you're not a member, go ahead and request access. I will gladly add you to the group. And then the reason I wanted to do a book club is because it will keep our minds occupied and focus on something positive throughout the week, right?
Yeah.
We're reading our book throughout the week. And then we can come together and collectively discuss it on a Zoom meeting that will be a bit broader. So instead of just seeing like two faces, all of us will see faces. And I'm excited about that because that way we can all get to see each other and hear each other talk instead of reading the written words or whatever in the group. And I hope that will help us all feel a little less isolated during this time of global crazy. So our first meetup, our first Zoom call will be Monday at 1:00. And I can also email you the link to the Zoom call if you do not prefer to join the group. So please let me know about that as well. I'd be happy to send that out to whoever would like that Zoom call as well. And then I'll be announcing the next book for the following week as well. So we're going to keep it going for as long as it's helpful to people. And then when it's done, basically.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's so important right now for those of us that are kind of struggling with needing to have a different level of social interaction. I would highly suggest to follow hashtags. So if you're not currently, actually, if you guys are connected on LinkedIn, will you guys put a 1 in here in the chat? The reason why I say follow hashtags is because if any of us, any of the EA advocates, if we're doing events and you're following our hashtags, a lot of us will do like hashtag EA training or hashtag free EA webinar. So if you're following those hashtags, regardless if it's me or Annie or Melissa Mosier or, Meg Steinschauer or whoever, if you're following a hashtag, it's going to increase your feed. The same thing with, really Instagram and Twitter and all of it. So I would highly suggest, or if you follow Annie Whole Assistant, hashtag Whole Assistant, or for me, hashtag Admin Gurus or hashtag EA Revolution, all of that stuff that goes out there, then, it can help you and you guys can decide when and where you're able to attend. Because I think everybody's, trying to help this issue of everybody feeling isolated. So I would highly suggest you follow hashtags. And then if you guys haven't, so there's the RaveNet, which is, I can send it out as a link too, but that's sort of a one-stop shop that Melissa Mosier is working with to try and have a one-stop shop for EAs to go find training on whatever, whatever, all the things. And then we're actually going to do a virtual admin conference on April the 23rd in celebration of Administrative Professionals Week. So we haven't announced it yet, so you guys heard it first here. So we're super excited about that because, I think everybody is feeling the pressure, especially as EAs, because we have so much pressure on us right now and getting pulled in different ways. So I'm excited that we're able to do that one. Yay. Aw, yay, Meg. Okay, so we have a couple more minutes left. So if you guys want to go in and ask your last questions, I'm going to look at the poll really quick. Okay, so out of the poll, 68% said that so to the question, do you feel that you have open and honest communication with your executive business partner? 68% said yes, 3% said no, and 29 asked for tips on how to improve that communication. So any thoughts on what is your biggest tip for having more open and honest communication with your exec?
I think two things. First of all, I think it's having the patience for your executive. I think so often we get in this place where it's like, we're thinking, oh, well, no, I need communication. I need more communication. I need more communication. We're so anxious about it. And we feel entitled to people's communication with us, whether it be our exec or someone else, when in reality, we're not entitled to anything.
Yeah.
So I think increased patience is one thing. I also think being an open and honest with your executive will also lead to reciprocated openness and honesty with you. Sometimes we have to be the first person to take the initiative and to be open and honest with our executive before they're willing to be open and honest with us. And sometimes it just takes patience. Like I worked with this gal who it took her 1.5 years for her executive to trust her fully.
Yeah.
I mean, just some people are really private, and she just kept doing all the things. She kept being present. She kept asking, how she could help, what she needed to do, all those things. So stay engaged, don't check out. And just sometimes it just takes a while. It just does, if you're new in your role.
Yeah, I would say understand what their communication style is, and it may be different than yours, and that's okay. And if their communication style is different than yours, it is a whole new muscle memory for you to actively work on communicating in a way that they prefer, and that's not easy. So I would say kind of figure out what their preferred communication style is and then intentionally do that thing. Okay, so then the second question is, are you actively producing or developing productivity habits? 61% of you said yes, which is awesome. 39, just went to 41%, said, I want to know more. So I think the thing with your productivity habits is, because we're asked to do so many things, if you are not intentional with your gaps, if you have not kind of reflectively looked and said, okay, these are some areas that I need to work on, you can't create a process to get better at it. And then 1 year and 2 years from now, you're still stuck in the same issue. So I know both Annie and I really talk a lot about productivity habits being a thing and like working on it. So maybe we can send out, I'll pull Annie and I stuff together and we'll send it out in a post email. Okay, so question number 3 of the poll was, do you feel like your productivity is hindered by working remotely? 23% said yes, 59% no, and 18% not sure. I love that. Okay, so we have a couple more questions that we just got. Let me go there really quickly. How do you find confidence in LinkedIn? I've held jobs since I was 14 and never finished my degree. My last 2 jobs were in retail management, and my recruiter advised I didn't share in LinkedIn, so I have no idea how. So I don't have a degree and no jobs are shown on my page. So I think the question is around building your LinkedIn profile and the importance of that. So Lord, do we know what that's like? I think building your LinkedIn profile is something that's personal to you. I think that we struggle in our industry that a lot of times we feel that our executives own our profile, and that's not the case. There's lots of ways that you can make your LinkedIn profile really engaging and, put social media out there, creating it that's engaging, even if you don't have a lot of data behind it. So that's like I'm trying to think, who do we know? Does anybody know? And I can't think of her name is, I can't think of her name right now. It's Jennifer. She does the LinkedIn classes. Does anybody online remember who I'm talking about? I'll think of the name and I'll send it out too. But there's a lady on LinkedIn that is in the EA world that specifically focuses a lot on LinkedIn and building. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Meg. Jennifer Cochran. I think that's how you say her name. But yes, follow Jennifer because she has lots of tips about building your profile as an EA, well, just in general, but also as an EA on LinkedIn. So awesome. Okay, let's check the Q&A one last time. Okay, so there's one more question. I use Gmail and was wondering if there's a way to say I'm checking emails at 10:30 and 2:30 each day and will follow up during this time. I don't want to put an absent alert on, but maybe an email do not disturb message.
Can I speak to this for just a second?
Yeah, do it.
I think we all have, I think sometimes we get into this rut of expecting to be available to everybody all the time.
Yeah. Preach.
And I also think that you don't have to say a damn thing. I think if you're going to check email at 10:30 and 2:30, then you're going to check email at 10:30 and 2:30, and people are going to have to wait. What the most they're going to wait is 4 hours to get their email read, right?
Yeah.
That's not bad at all. So do not feel, I think this is a mindset thing, a shift that I would like to see us all make, especially with our email inboxes. Otherwise, our email inboxes will rule our lives. So I don't think you owe anybody an explanation. You're going to check your email at 10:30 and 2:30. If people need to reach you outside of that, they can call you. So that's what I would say to that question. And feel no shame, because you've got things you need to take care of. I don't know. I know for myself, I only check email 3 times a day. First thing in the morning, around noon, and before I close out of my inbox at night.
Yep.
And then my email inbox is closed the rest of the time, because otherwise nothing would ever get done.
Yeah. And it's funny when I say that to people too. I do twice a day. When I say that, people like their eyes pop out of their head. They're like, oh my God, how do you? And I honestly think it goes back to the conversation of you have to communicate. I don't just do that and never tell anybody. Like when I work with my team, I let them know, because in general, nobody is, if it's something is urgent and the house is on fire, they are not emailing you. They're calling you, they're stopping by your desk or IMing you. I mean, they're getting hold of you in a different way. They're not emailing you. And so I think that it kind of goes back to that. It is okay that you have standards and a way that you work. And you shouldn't feel that need, like Annie said, you should not feel the need that you're just at everybody's beck and call. There's things that you have to do to help drive the business. And if you are waiting for, all you're doing is responding to emails all day long, at the end of the day, you have nothing done. So I just communicate that out and I say, hey, look, this is, if you need to get a hold of me, email is not going to be the way. I check it here, and outside of that, I'm getting my work done. And in general, I will say that more people reply back to me and like, thank you for saying that, because I feel empowered to do that too. Because it's not just us that feel that pressure. The whole world feels the pressure of constant like demands of email. Just and because it's top of, go ahead.
Sorry. And there again, you don't have to let everybody know either. You don't have to like have an autoresponder, nothing. Who you need to let know is your executive, because if he's used to a faster response from you, he's going to expect that faster response from you. So you need to let him know how he can reach you outside of email if he's looking for a faster response. And if he's not, if he sends an email, then he knows. I mean, my executive knows that if he wants to reach me, he needs to send me a text.
Yeah.
And if it can wait, then he sends me the email. If it can wait a couple hours, right? So I just need to, oh, just 1 second. I need to grab my son.
Yeah. Yay, we can see Sammy. Dave? So I'm going to answer the question. So somebody asked, what about if your executive sends your email? I think that I still stick to the time frame. Like my executives sort of know. Oh, hi, Sammy. Oh my gosh, how fun is that? Like his first
Live
picture.
right now, guys. This is my son Samuel. Sorry, guys.
Oh, I love it. So I was just answering the question somebody had asked, what if it's you have an executive that's emailing you? And I was just saying that for me, I feel that it's okay. Even if your executive is emailing you, are they expecting an immediate, I will do this right now? Or, you know, what are they expecting back? If they're not, if it's not urgent, then I think it's okay that it sits there. They don't have to know that you have read their email.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, the whole world is like, yeah, look at
I'm so sorry.
No, this is awesome. I love it.
This is just
And
like,
how he's what, 3 months now?
yeah, 3.5
Close to
months.
4?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So sweet. Okay, guys. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I will make sure that I connect with Annie and we'll send you guys all of those lists that we chatted about. Stay connected because we've got lots of webinars that are free coming up, virtual co-working sessions. Annie's got her book club, all that good stuff. So please stay connected with us and let us know what you guys are looking for next. So thanks, everyone.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Have a good one.